just a reminder that the end of the term is tomorrow. So any late tests, quizzes, anything like that, I am here Wednesday and Thursday after school. And so if you have a quiz or test and you can't make it tomorrow and you need Thursday night to do it, just talk to me, cause you could do it then. I have to have grades in on Monday, is when we have to turn them into the office. And then all homework also, make sure it's here tomorrow after school. All right. So today we're gonna talk about arithmetic and geometric sequences. We'll do arithmetic and then at the end we'll start geometric and then tomorrow we'll finish that. This is something that I can almost guarantee will be on the test. Maybe one of each, one question of each, but I would say at least one question on this. So a sequence is going to be a list of numbers that are either separated by where you add the same number each time or where you multiply by the same number each time. And then the term in the sequence, so if you said like your sequence was this, okay, and they said find the fifth term, that would just be the number 5 term here, which would be 13, okay? Now, how you can come up with an arithmetic sequence is this formula. Doesn't this look familiar? This is the slope-intercept formula, okay? This is f of x, and f of x is just like y, so don't let that confuse you. In this formula, your slope is the difference between the two numbers. So in my example up here, my m would be 3, okay? And then b is where you start. And in this case here, we started with 1. So if I had to write that equation here, it would be f of x equals m is 3, and then you'd have x, and then it's plus b, so it'd be plus 1, okay? But one thing that's kind of weird in the arithmetic sequence is if they asked you for like the 52nd term, okay, and you're finding it, you would subtract 1 from that when you go to put it into this equation to find that 52nd term. And the reason is you start with x equals 0, not x equals 1. So that's why you have to subtract 1. So if they asked you, what is the 52nd term in this sequence, we would put 51 in for x to figure it out, okay? Oh, and by the way, this is on your cheat sheet that is in the MCA packet. So you'd have that to remind you what that is, okay? All right, so let's look here. It says write the equation in the form f of x equals mx plus b using this. And what are they doing each time here? They're just adding 4, right? So m is 4. And then b is the number you start with. So in this case, b would be 3, okay? And then when you go to write your equation, f of x, it's mx plus b. And again, this is one of those that's kind of open. So I would write down as much as I could for this. So I'd write this out, and then the next step, I would substitute. So f of x would equal 4x plus 3, okay? Then they're asking me for the 51st term. So if they're asking us for the 51st term, what would you put in for x then? 50, okay? So it'd be 4 times 250 plus 3. And then when you look, it would be 200 plus 3, which would be 203. All right. Now, if we look at this one, it says which equation can be used to generate this sequence? And again, your M is how much it changes each time. Like, what are they adding or subtracting each time? When you look at the positive numbers, it's probably easier to see that they're adding 3 each time. And then B is what we started with, which is the -7. So then your equation would be f of x equals, you put in 3 for your M, and then you could either go plus a -7 or just subtract 7. So our answer would be B. Okay? Then if we go to our next page, which series is arithmetic? What that means is they have to each be added the same amount, same number each time, or you have a number subtracted each time. Which one looks like it would be? C. What does it look like they're doing each time? Subtracting 13, okay? This one, aren't they multiplying it by 2? So that's gonna be a geometric sequence that we'll talk about in a little bit. This one doesn't really have a pattern at all, nor does that one. So C is the one, they're subtracting 13 each time. Okay? What sequence is generated for this when x is 0, 1, 2, and 3? Okay? So in this one, they're giving us the sequence, and what we have to do is we have to take, I'm gonna just write this down first, -2x plus 7, and first we're gonna put 0 in for both of those, because that's what they tell us to do, okay? So first we're putting f of 0 in, which would be -2 times 0 plus 7, which would be 7, okay? So you'd want to find one that starts with 7, and then when you put 1 in there, it would be -2 times 1 plus 7, which is 5. So doesn't it look like it's this one right here? And then you can tell too, it is subtracting 2 each time, okay? And they started at 7, so that does make sense for that, okay? Then, if we go to this page, it says here's our sequence, generates those numbers. What is the 26th term? So if I take f of x equals -10x plus 27, what do I put in for x? 25, very good. You have to remember to subtract 1. Okay, and that would be -250 plus 25 is -225. Okay, so
It's plus 27.
oh, I'm sorry. I just copied this down wrong, sorry. Okay, let's try that again. So this should be a 7, 7. So that's -250 plus 27, which would be -223, which is right here. Okay? Then, this one is one of those, again, that is open-ended, so you have to write stuff. So for this one, what does it look like our slope would be, or our M would be?
6,
minus 6. They're subtracting 6 each time. And then remember, b is where it starts, which is -1. And then we would write f of x is equal to mx plus b. And we would put the -6 in for m, the b in here. So it would be f of x equals -6x, and then you could do plus a -1 or just -1. And I think that's all they needed. Yeah, the function rule. Okay. Then for this one, it says, which of the following best describes the arithmetic sequence 2, 5, 8, 11, and so on? Okay, so first of all, when you have a sequence like that, it is going to be a function, and even you can tell that because the way that it is like this means a function of x. Okay, so it's a function, and then this is slope-intercept form, and if you were to graph something in slope-intercept form, don't you get a straight line? So that means it's linear also. So it's a function and it's linear, so we would get b right here, okay? Now, you could look at, is this it, okay? Is this the function notation for this? Isn't this your m, right? The +3. So shouldn't the 3 be here? And the b would be where it starts. So isn't the 2 and 3 just mixed up on that one? Okay, so that's why it's not that one. So this represents an arithmetic sequence. What is the common difference between the terms? Is it the 4.2 or the -3? The 4.2. This is the difference between. This is your starting point. So it's 4.2. Okay. Now what we're going to do is go on to geometric sequences. So arithmetic sequences are when you add or subtract the same number each time. Geometric sequences are when you multiply the same number each time, okay? So this is the formula for an arithmetic sequence, okay? And the A in this formula is where your sequence starts. So I'll give you an example. Let's say that it was 2, 4, 8, 16. Each time I'm multiplying by 2, okay? So my A would be 2. And then B is, oh, nope, I got that wrong. It is 2, but A is where you start. So the reason it's 2 is because that's where you start. For B, what you do is what are you multiplying by each time? And that is also 2 in this case, okay? So when you do this one, it would be f of x equals, your A is 2, your B is 2, and it would be to the x power. Sometimes it's not easy to tell what the common ratio is, what they're multiplying by each time. So what you could do, like let's pretend you couldn't tell what's happening in this one. You can take one of the later terms, like say 16, and you can divide it by a term that's right before it, which is 8, and that will tell you what your common ratio is. This one's easy to tell without dividing, but you always would take a later number and divide it by the one right before it, okay? And again in this one, if they ask for the 26th term you put in 25, you subtract 1, okay? So here's a geometric sequence, and one of the things you have to do is look at what is your common ratio. And with these, you're multiplying. So what are they multiplying by each time? 3, right? So in this one, the one that is, I should just write down my formula first. A, and then it's B to the X. And remember, this one is your common ratio. And this one is your starting point. And I believe on your cheat sheet that you guys get, I don't know that I put it on here, but on your cheat sheet on the test, it would be on there, that formula right here, okay? And A is your starting value, B is your common ratio. It may not tell you that part, you would have to know that. So if I try to write this, okay, I would go f of x equals, the starting point is just your first number, so that's 2. And our common ratio we said was 3 because we're multiplying by 3. And then you put that to the x, and that would be your notation for that function. Then it asks us, what is the 9th term? So what we would do is we'd go f of 9 equals 2 times 3 to what power? 8. Now, if you go to put that in your calculator, okay, here is what you're gonna do. You're gonna go 2, and you could put the 3 in parentheses. You don't have to though. You could just go 2 times 3, and then how you do it to the 8th power is you'd go up arrow and then 8, okay? So you'd go 2 times 3, hit this up arrow thing, 8, enter. Now I would guess if they have something to the 8th power, they're gonna have you use a calculator. If it was 2 times 3 squared, then they'd have you maybe just do it mentally, okay? So this is, what was that again? I didn't even look. 13,122. Okay. And you guys know if it was like 2 times 3 to the 4th power and they made you do that in your head, would you guys know that it's 2 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3? Everybody knows that, right? Okay. All right, now let's go down here. And they say to write an equation for this. And again, it's f of x equals a times b to the x. A is your starting point, which is our 3. And b is the common ratio. What are they doing in this one? Multiplying by 2. So this would be f of x equals, a is 3, b is 2 to the x. Okay, so it'd be this one right here. All right, one more page. So this is a sequence, okay, and what it says, this one's one of those open-ended ones again, is they want the 7th term in the sequence, okay? Now, this is one that you may look at and be like, I'm not quite sure what they're multiplying by each time, okay? How you can figure that out then for your B is you can take any term and divide it by the term that's in front of it. So you could take 4.5 divided by 1.5, and when you do that, that is 3. If you checked 40.5 divided by 13.5, that is 3. Okay, so we know that our B is 3, our A
is where it starts, which is 1.5, and then we would go f of x equals a is 1.5, b is 3, and that's to the x. But what they're asking us for is the 7th term. Now on this one, they would give you a calculator. I wouldn't think they'd ever make you do this without. But what do I put in for x then? 6. So we would go to our calculator and we would type in 1.5 times 3 times 3. How am I doing today? Times 3 up arrow 6. And I got 1093.5. Okay. And then one more, find the 8th term in this. So we have f of x equals a times b to the x. Remember, a is your starting point, which is 1/9. B is what you're multiplying by each time, and if you use these, it's easier. They're multiplying by what? 3. So f of x is going to be 1/9 times 3 to the x, okay? And we want to find the 8th term. So what would we put in for x then? 7. So it'd be times 3 to the 7th. Again, I strongly believe that they would not make you do that without a calculator. Now, do you guys know how to enter a fraction into your calculator? If you have a CE version, there's a way to do it where you don't use parentheses. Before the CE versions came out, and that's the ones that are like CE in your title of the calculator, the newest ones, I just use parentheses all the time because every calculator can use parentheses for fractions. So what I would do for that 1/9, I'd go parenthesis 1 divided by 9 parenthesis times 3, and then up arrow 7, enter. Did you get 243? And I don't know if I've told you guys this or not, but when you take your test, you are going to, if they allow a calculator, you will get the choice of a Desmos calculator and the TI one that I use up here. You probably haven't learned much about Desmos, have you? Or did you in like 7th or 8th grade? So just always choose the TI calculator, not the Desmos. That's kind of what I teach on, so. Yeah. And I'll get you guys out the key for this sheet. I think after today, guys, we have 30 days of school.